grade 7 students! Welcome to our English class. I am Teacher Jean and I am your teacher in this subject. I hope everyone is feeling good today. Are you ready for today's lesson? That's fantastic! So, sit back, relax, and have fun learning with me.
Woo!
Learning competency. Use the passive and active voices meaningfully in varied contexts.
Many people are confused by whether they are using active or passive voice when writing or speaking, and in which scenario each is preferred. Thankfully, there is a simple way of identifying the two styles. In this module, we are going to explore the world of active and passive voices. Be ready and fasten your seatbelt as you will be answering some sort of exercises prepared for you. At the end of this class, you are expected to utilize the passive and active voices in the correct manner. Identify active and passive voices in different types of writing. Construct sentences using active and passive voices. Use active and passive voices in varied manners. Before we move on to our discussion, let us first determine what you already know by answering this activity.
Directions. Identify the following statements whether it is true or not. Write T if the statement is true and F if it is false. Write your answers on a half sheet of paper. Number 1. Active voice. The subject of the sentence is the one doing the action denoted by the verb. Number 2. Passive voice. The subject receives the action expressed by the verb. Number 3. In the active voice, the subject performs the action expressed by the verb. Number 4. An active voice is used when you need to highlight the object or person who is affected by or received the action. Number 5. In the active voice, the meaning is clearer and direct. Number 6. In the passive voice, the meaning can be confusing and indirect. Number 7. In the passive voice, the doer of the action is followed by the verb. Number 8. In the active voice, the subject is done on or upon the subject. Number 9. The tone is authoritative and subjective in the active voice. Number 10. The tone is neutral or objective in passive voice. Good job! You get the correct answers. Let's try another activity. Are you familiar with e-newspapers? Great! Can you give some examples of it? Very good! I have here some sample headlines from actual e-newspapers. Here is what you are going to do. Copy in your notebook the table, and you have to identify the subject of the sentence and the main verb that comes after the subject for each headline given. Number 1 is already provided as an example for your easy reference.
Very good, students! I'll give you 3 stars because you did a great job.
Did you identify correctly the subject of the sentence and the main verb? What have you observed with each of the sentences? Now, you are ready to take off to another task, which is exploring the 2 types of voices. Let us explore what is active and passive voice and what are the general rules in converting active to passive voice and vice versa. The voice of a verb tells whether the subject of the sentence performs or revives the action. Voices are of 2 types, the active and passive voices. Active voice means that a sentence has a subject that acts upon its verb. In this type, the subject performs the action expressed by the verb. For example, Giselle sings a song. Here, Giselle is the subject and the verb is sing, and song is the object. The action of singing is being done by subject Giselle. Another example, James finished the homework. In this scenario, James is the subject and the verb is finish and homework is the object. Here, the action of finishing is being done by the subject James. Passive voice. This means that the subject is the recipient of a verb's action. In passive voice, the subject receives the action expressed by the verb. For example, a song is sung by Giselle. Here, the song is the subject, sing is the verb, and Giselle is the entity who did the action of singing, and sing is the entity on whom the action has been done. Another example, the homework was finished by James. In this example, homework is the subject and finish is the verb. James is the one who did the action of finishing, and homework is the entity on whom the action is done. Here's a diagram for your better understanding on the difference between active and passive voice. General rules of converting active voice to passive voice. First, the subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice, and the object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. Second, put by in front of the subject in the passive voice. Third, use third form of verb plus is or are or was or were or been or being according to the tense in the passive voice.
To change a sentence from active to passive voice, do the following. First, move the active direct object into the subject slot. Second, place the active subject into a phrase beginning with the preposition by. Third, add form of the auxiliary verb be to the main verb and change the main verb's form. To change a passive voice into active voice sentence, simply reverse the steps shown in the previous line. First, move the passive subject into the active direct object slot. Second, remove the auxiliary verb be from the main verb and change main verb's form if needed. Third, place the passive sentence object of the preposition by into the subject slot. It is confusing when you change the sentences from active voice to passive voice and vice versa. However, if you know how to convert the tense of the verb, then it is easy. Here are some examples for your better understanding. Always remember that not all sentences can be changed to passive voice. Only an active voice of the sentence with a direct object can be made passive. For example, tarsiers live in the rainforest. This sentence cannot be changed to passive voice because the sentence does not have a direct object. I have here another example. She is dancing. This sentence cannot be changed as to passive voice because the sentence does not have a clear known object. And finally, sentence like he died in 2005. This sentence has no known object. Therefore, it cannot be converted into passive voice. Have you learned from the discussion? Great! This time, we will test your knowledge of active and passive voices with these grammar exercises. Each sentence in the next slide is in active voice. Change it into passive. One example is provided for you.
You get to correct answers. How about we will have another activity? Sounds good.
Now, you have to write the sentences in the next slide into active voice. You can now start.
You did a great job, students. You really learned from the discussion. But wait! Before we end our class, copy first your assignment. After a few minutes, you will hear a clicking sound, which is a signal for you to stop writing. Got it? Good! Finally, the module was completed.
Woo!
Congratulations to everybody. Thank you so much for your active engagement. And once again, I am Teacher Jean and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye!